I'm Casey Hudson. I'm the executive producer on the Mass Effect series.
Shepard warned us they were coming, but we didn't listen. Now the fate of our world, of every world, rests in his hands.
We need a plan to stop them.
We fight or we die. That's the plan.
As we're at the Microsoft Spring Showcase, what do you think the Kinect brings to Mass Effect 3 as opposed to what you get in the PlayStation version, let's say?
Well, I think with the Kinect, you're starting to see really the future of the way interactive story is going to work, and you can play it now on Mass Effect 3. We looked at the Kinect functionality. Initially, we weren't necessarily planning to put it in, but we realized as game designers, it makes it very easy. You kind of skip the research and development part, and you can go straight to having a game designer hook up something you do in the game with a player's voice. And when we started thinking about all the things you could do with that, it actually is pretty amazing, because all the things that you would use your voice for, if it was a real experience, talking to your squad members and having conversations, you can do those things with your voice as a player. And one of the mind-blowing things about it is having a conversation in the game, and you're talking to these virtual characters using your voice and having an interactive conversation. And when you're doing that, it actually feels like the future of storytelling.
Yeah, I think I'll probably take a little bit of getting used to actually have the, like you said, the conversation points. But can you imagine like the fan base doing their YouTube kind of reenactments of the scenes and everything?
It's really neat, and where you realize that it is the kind of new way to do it is after you've had a really cool conversation with a character in the game, speaking to them, and then you want to go on with the rest of the game, and you realize, oh yeah, I have to now pick up this controller. And that's where it feels like, yeah, okay, this is kind of the way we've done it before, but we got to get to some of these other things that we're doing in the future.
Cool. I wanted to touch on, obviously there's been a little talk about the DLC component of the game recently in the press, whether or not what you're getting in the shops is like the full package, or the DLC is something which is like necessary, or if you've taken it out of the full game. I mean, do you want to just clarify that for the fans at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of Mass Effect 3 is resolving all of the biggest questions about the Protheans and the Reapers, and being in the driver's seat to end the galaxy and all of these big plot lines to decide what civilizations are going to live and die. All of these things are answered in Mass Effect 3. And so it is really the biggest and richest, most complete game in the series. But we also knew that people wanted more story, more DLC, like we did with Mass Effect 2. And so once the team is unable to work on Mass Effect 3 anymore, because that is finished and going through certification, we move people on to working on DLC, and that really is the sugar on top of the experience. It's optional, it's fun, it's really cool stuff, but it's not critical to the story. If you want to know what happens with the Protheans and the Reapers and all that kind of stuff, it's answered in the base game in Mass Effect 3.
How do you go about working out what would be the DLC and what wouldn't be when you're writing the plot of the game and etc.? How do you think, oh, actually that might be something cool that we'll leave for later? Like, where's the decision process in that?
So what we do is we once we finish the game, and then we think about like what else do players want more of. One thing that people really asked for and liked a lot on Mass Effect 2 was more squad members. And so that's one of the first things that we did was we created a squad member, and that's also why the team worked really hard after the Mass Effect 3 game was finished to kind of beat the certification process to get the character out, so that you have the option of playing that character in your first playthrough if you want. Or you can do your first playthrough, kind of decide whether you want to buy the DLC and get it later, because it is optional. And it's also, something that comes with weapons and cool kind of mods and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a booster pack for your first playthrough if you want, but very optional.
Obviously, other than the Kinect thing, the big addition this time is the multiplayer. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I mean, there's talk of it kind of affecting the single-player campaign or being quite linked to it. So how does that all work in the final shake-up?
Yeah, so I think some of the pitfalls of adding something like multiplayer are making it totally irrelevant or contradictory to the experience, or tying it in too much so that now the experience that you want out of single player is somehow corrupted by that. And we didn't want to do either of those things. That's why we've never done it before. But with Mass Effect 3, we had an opportunity to solve it in a way that solves both of those problems. So basically, multiplayer is not about being Commander Shepard. In Mass Effect 3, the whole idea is the entire galaxy is at war. Not just Commander Shepard and Shepard's crew, but there's a war everywhere you go. There's armies fighting, fleets. And so what if you could be in the boots of those soldiers, and you could be a Krogan, you can be an Asari, you can be all these things that you can't be in the Mass Effect universe. You can play with your friends across the country or around the world, and both, have a bunch of friends together playing it. And so the cool thing is, it is a really neat supplement for stuff you could never otherwise do, but it also ties in with the story, because in this galactic war, Shepard's trying to do a lot of the hero stuff and make decisions and trying to win the war that way. But you can't do it all on your own. And so that's where the multiplayer side comes in. You need to help win the other part of the war on that side. And it's as simple as feeding into a single score. So the more you do as Commander Shepard, the less you need to do on the multiplayer side, and vice versa. If you want to rip through and get your shortest playthrough as Commander Shepard, and you do a bunch of multiplayer, then you'll end up with the same results. And either way will get you the best endings in Mass Effect 3.
Sounds really interesting, actually. As you've hit on there, this game is like a massively action-based, even more so than the previous games, and people have likened the combat to both Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 a bit of a hybrid. I mean, is that how you go into the design, or you basically start from scratch and think, right, I want to do it in a different way this time?
Well, I mean, the way we look at it is building on what we have, and that's how we're able to constantly make something better, is we already have a lot of really great features, and we already have a really great overall game experience. But then we think about things that we want to improve and the things that players have asked us to improve, so that then we can tune those things. And so it's not actually about making the experience different or biasing it towards action or anything, because what people will see that yes, the action side is better than ever before, and a lot of people are saying now, this is among the very best, of the third-person combat experiences they've ever had. But the game is also so much more than that, because then they go into the role-playing systems and they realize we have added a lot of depth there as well. The choices that you make about progressing your character, customizing your armor, your weapons, it's a lot more physical now, but you're also making choices, and it's choices about how you want to play and how you want to upgrade, and it changes your gameplay. So it's a deeper decision making in the role playing systems. So we haven't really changed the bias. It's just going in and making these things better.
I just wanted to touch on the future, basically. I mean, do you feel with Mass Effect 3 you've pushed, say, the 360 and the PS3 as far as you can now? I mean, do you welcome the next level of technology that comes in, if and when they do?
I think we're always excited about new technology and what you can do with it. I think most interesting is the potential of bringing in new types of control, different ways for people to interact with the universe. But it's hard to say where things are going, and ultimately, games they've always been and always will be about limitations. And every time we get huge new technology capability, you immediately run up against the limits that are there. Yeah. And so great games are still made as a result of the limitations that they have, and you can go back to several consoles ago and still find really, really great game experiences. So it'll still always be about limitations, but there are things that we've been waiting to do for a while that I think the next generation will allow us to do.
The final thing I wanted to ask you actually is, I presume that a game like Mass Effect must take 4 or 5 years maybe 3 or 4 years to complete from start to finish. What do you do to switch off when a project like that is finished?
Yeah, I mean, the last Mass Effect 2 and 3 have each been done in a little bit over 2 years, and the first one took almost 4. And then altogether, we've been working on it for around 8 years. So, we definitely are going to try and take this year to kind of decompress. And Mac, our lead writer, described it as an input year. We've just really been focusing on output and building things and getting games out. So I think, in addition to holiday time, I think we want to just play a lot of games and watch a lot of movies, listen to a lot of player experiences about what they love about Mass Effect 3, and build that into what we do in the future.
And will Commander Shepard return in the future?
Well, we will have some really good kind of ongoing DLC stuff, and so people will have other opportunities to take their Shepard out for a spin in the Mass Effect universe. But Mass Effect 3 as a series, this is kind of the beginning of the biggest events in Shepard's storyline and also the end.
All right, well, thanks very much for talking to us. It's been great. Thanks.